Welcome! Here's your bubbly and beautiful host, Elizabeth. It's the Caffeinated Cooper Show.
Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about Loch Ness, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see all of you. Welcome to another episode of the news. We're going to go over some great topics, so make sure that you stay tuned. And without any further ado, I am going to bring up my sidekick, the best guy ever, J.C. Schweingrouber of Vista Front Partners. How are you?
I'm great. That's some great accolades. The best guy ever.
Best guy ever.
You want to hear something funny about that? It's so funny. When I used to work at this firm in Cincinnati, there were a lot of us out on the floor, the trading floor and so forth. And we all had these name tags on our nameplates on our desks, right? Our little cubes and all that stuff. So I go out to lunch and I come back, and I don't know, I'm sure it was probably one of my goofy friends trying to embarrass me. Takes my nameplate, my name tag out of the plate. On the back, it's like just white. You can write on it. And he wrote down God's gift to women and slid that sucker back in. And oh my God, I didn't realize it for like 2 hours after I gotten back. And people were coming by laughing. It's like, what's up, stud? Then poking my shoulder. Like, no, why are people making fun of me? What's going on? Oh my goodness.
There's a couple of things going on in the news cycle, and none of them I really even want to talk about. So let's talk about something totally different. Now, I have a question for you. It's more of like a relationship type of thing. I want a guy's perspective. And any of you guys out there watching, please give us your perspective in the comments. So do you like in a relationship to do the cosplay thing? Where like, okay, honey, you want to go out to dinner? Well, yeah, sure. But she shows up looking completely different, asking you to call her a different name, that kind of thing. We've all seen it in the TV shows, right?
No, but I'll take your word. That'd be a little different.
Wouldn't it?
Hey, if we're gonna act like spies, maybe we can go as like Humphrey Bogart and Ginger Allen or something, or I don't know. Maybe the couple from The Silent Man. Those movies. Trying to think of their names. I can't remember them, but it's like this married couple. They ended up getting married, but they were like a couple of lushes. But they were great detectives. And they would sometimes change their names depending on what party they were at or on a train or whatever. It's kind of fun.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much what I meant. Like, and I don't mean like Comic-Con stuff. Like, I don't mean like, oh, I'll be Wonder Woman and you be Superman. Like, no, like something that could totally be plausible in any environment that's natural, not like put on or anything. Role play is good. Michael Harrison is already sounding off from Las Vegas.
Call me the doctor. Maybe it could be. It just depends on what kind of evening you're planning. But one thing I've always wanted to do is go to one of those like it's like a mystery. Somebody gets killed. It's kind of like a Clue.
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe one of those where like you get on the train, like the Orient Express sort of thing, and you have to figure out who the killer is.
Totally. I've always wanted to go to one of those, and I never have. One of the mystery dinners. Who done it? Yeah.
Oh, those who that would be fun. I could see doing something like that. Yeah.
My girls and I, so my youngest daughter, when she was like 12, she had, I don't know what she was doing in her room, but she wasn't doing anything bad, but she has a very creative mind, right? And one day she came downstairs and she said, Mommy, I know exactly how to get rid of a body. And I'm like, okay. So she's always been into the whole murder mystery, whodunit type thing. And they have these games. And I'll have to look it up in just a second to give you the name of the game, but it's exactly that. And it gives you all these little pieces and it tells you when to open what file. And you get to look through all the files and the autopsy. And you have to figure out who died and how. It's a great, open up a couple of bottles of wine is a great game.
That sounds kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like she's been watching a lot of investigative Discovery. Like, but that channel is addictive when you start watching that.
Yeah, it is.
And you had to drop me a message the other day, like, hey, go watch this. Was it National Geographic?
I think it was Nat Geo last night. They did an 80s thing. It was all 80s.
Oh, and then I got totally stupid hooked watching that stuff. And I loved it. It was great. Like all the fads and fashions and movies and like top 10 power couples. That was one of them, I think.
Right. And the acid wash jeans, I didn't realize that was an accident. So that started by accident. And then it like just went wild.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. It is. Like, you remember the jams and the jellies and the Cavaricis?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, before there were Crocs, everybody, there were jelly shoes. Look it up. It's not a big stretch. So I think it's really interesting. Remember the shoulder pads? Everybody had to have shoulder pads, especially blouses.
Yeah, I was 12 and I had them. It's like, why?
And trying out for the football team. Everybody looked like a linebacker in the 80s. It was great. Mm-hmm. And the hairstyles were really out there. See, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually wrote a book about the 80s. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
Yeah, it's called The Ultimate 80s, and you can go look it up. It's by John Schweingrouber. You can find it on Amazon. It's on Kindle. And I talked about like the fashions, the fads, like top 10 movies. Like it was like a fun book to read, but it was like a trivia thing all at the same time. On the like the movie section and stuff I was writing, I would like during the course of it, I'd be like top 10 movies in 1980, top grossing movies of 1980 were, and I'd have them listed with the amount of money each one made. Mm. And like I went year by year by year, and same thing with music and like Billboard top 10, and I talked about like the different like hair metal and why nerds took over everything and top 10 nerd movies, top 10 nerds of the 80s. Like I love doing those top 10. So it was a fun, really fun book. I did all. Yeah, it was. If anybody gets bored and wants to have like an 80s trivia book on hand, go look it up. It's on Kindle and it's dirt cheap. So,
but I noticed that you said John Schweingrouber. So I know that your pen name for the books that I know of are Cyrus Alderwood.
Right.
So how many pen names do you have?
Well, that's my real name is the John. Like I go by JC, but John's my first name. And the funny thing is my middle name's Clinton, for anybody who wants to know. And the reason I got stuck with that name was my mom was such a big Clint Eastwood fan.
Okay.
So she named my dad wasn't there when I was born, so she named me Clinton and tried to get everybody to call me Clint, which after watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I'm totally all for, right? But it seems like people in my family go by initials. I have a cousin named RF, my uncle J, and the JC just stuck. So I got stuck with JC. And then, so I wrote a book under my real name. And I'm like, well, nobody can spell my last name for starters. Like, why am I using that? And then a girl I know actually suggested the pen name because Alderwood, no one ever had that. It's like some kind of tree in Europe. An Alderwood tree. Mm-hmm. Like Cyrus was such a, I guess, kind of a popular name, sort of. And I thought, well, okay, I'll just do Cyrus Alderwood.
That's interesting. So there was a relationship there, right? That you just explained. So for me, I didn't want to use my legal name as my stage name because of the kids. Like I wanted to be able to protect the kids. Not that I was going to blow up and become, some Jennifer Aniston or anything. I wanted to keep them out of it. So I remember we went to Cracker Barrel for breakfast one morning and we were all sitting at the table and we're talking about what name should mommy choose for her stage name to put on a resume. Yeah. And all my acting networks and stuff like that. And agent, this, that, and the other. And so it came down to two names. Now, Cooper, my grandmother's name was Frances Cooper, was her maiden name. So Cooper's in the family. And my youngest son, his middle name's Cooper. So, okay, that was one choice. The other choice, Daniels. Because the Irish in me can just drink Jack Daniels like it's water.
There you go.
And
Jacqueline.
think it was one of my older daughters at the time, was probably only 14, and she's like, "That's a stripper name. Don't do that one."
So Jacqueline Daniels is a stripper name?
No, no, no. It was Elizabeth Daniels. So
Oh,
Elizabeth Cooper or Elizabeth Daniels. And she's like, "It sounds like a stripper name. I don't like that one."
well, that name got very popular under Trump's presidency, Daniels. So,
Yes, yes, it did.
the whole Stormy Daniels thing. I heard that was like somebody has a name Stormy. Like, yeah, obviously stage name, but I'm like, the hell?
Well, what would be your porn star name? I mean, obviously that's her porn star name.
I don't know. How do you figure that out? The last thing you ate and the color of your T-shirt or something? Or
I always heard it that it was your pet, your first pet that you remember as a kid, and the street that you grew up on. So mine, we had a dog named Oscar, and I grew up on Highland Avenue. So it'd be Oscar Highland, which in today's world that's a no-go because there would be too many questions.
I would hate to tell you what mine would be. I would like my dog Dinky, and the street I grew up on was North Street. So
Dinky North.
with,
There you go, everybody.
I would be very popular. Like, that's with a name like that. But holy cow!
Dinky North.
Oh, that's
All right. So everybody, what is your naughty
yeah,
name? Your stripper name, your porn star name.
funny. That's too funny. Yeah, I should have grown up. I should have had to name my dog something different. Dinky.
Dinky North. That is just fantastic. You know how many costumes I could put together for you for that to be
Oh.
Dinky North now takes the stage. Wow, that would be fantastic. You
That's
heard about an event recently, didn't you? That talking about funny.
Oh yeah. So next time anybody wants to travel to the sunny state of California, and if you're a fan of the Man-bun, the first annual Man-bun festival held in San Francisco. Right. I can just imagine what it would be like to be there, like who else marched with the Man-bun crowd? Would Antifa be there?
No.
I don't know. Like who marches with the Man-bun crowd? Maybe like a parade of hairdressers?
Why? Because they think maybe they can get a haircut in?
Maybe, or like I'd be like a barber's, like you got a sponsorship in the parade. Have a barber's t-shirt on or something with the barbershop that sponsors you.
The only people that I can think of that I still know that kind of rock the man bun, and all right, in my opinion, uh,
Mhm.
if you're like a late 20, early 30 something, and you're just a gym rat, but you're a young gym rat, you can pull that off because you have a really full head of hair. Like, okay, it works. On any other body type, for me, it doesn't work. So those are the only people that I ever see with a man bun are the younger guys at the gym.
Yeah, if you're an older guy with a man bun, you have to have like at least some connection to the hippie lifestyle, and maybe I can understand that. And you have to be in shape. You can't be some big fatty. Yeah, you know what I
But
mean.
hippies are now 70 years old.
I know, but I've seen some 70-year-olds with some long hair, and it's sorry about me blinking my eyes. I have dry eye syndrome, and for whatever reason, it just decided to kick in like
Okay.
2 minutes ago. So I'm rubbing my eyes like crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would actually be able to pull a man bun off. I always kind of joke around. Just here's the thing: do you like Red Lobster? Do you like
Mm,
seafood?
Um, I love fish. So yeah, I mean, if somebody really wants to go to Red Lobster, I'll go.
All
But
right. Anybody watching this, if you go to Red Lobster, just notice all the waiters. I don't know if it's a requirement. Every Red Lobster I've been in around here, every single dude working at the time has a man bun. Every single one. Like, I mean, I at this point, I go in, I pay close attention to it. And it's like, wow, every dude has a man bun. Like, I'm waiting on a manager to come out. Like, hey, how was your meal with the man bun? Because I'm thinking, is it part of the uniform now? I don't know.
I don't know. Now I'm going to have to go. It's almost the end of the school season, and usually I'll do a gift for the teachers. But this year, I'm definitely going to do gifts for our elementary school teachers because I've been in that school, sometimes driving them crazy, sometimes volunteering and helping out for the last 18 years between all the kids. So this is the baby that's graduating 5th grade. And maybe I'll go into Red Lobster and I'll get some gift cards as their gift or something like that. And I'll take a look. I'll take some footage for you. And we'll talk.
Absolutely, man. Go live on Facebook. Look, we're here at the 2nd annual Man-bun Festival.
The other place where I see the Man-bun is on the soccer field.
Yeah. But see, I wouldn't make fun of those guys because they would kick my ass.
Yeah.
Or anybody playing lacrosse. That's one thing I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But no, I joke around about that. Like I wrote this article once, obviously fake news on my Substack about the annual Man-bun Festival. I forgot what I wrote, but it was pretty funny. But hey, speaking of 80s stuff,
yeah.
As we get older, like aches and pains, and I'm thinking, like, back when I was young in the 80s, I was way young, but like, what hurts worse? Like getting hit on your funny bone or stepping on one of those, like a little Matchbox car or one of those, what do you call those? Like where they put them together, like they stack them up, they fit in. Legos, yeah.
Legos. I think it depends. So see, I do walk into doorways. It's just my thing. It's my favorite. And that hurts, I think, more than walking on Legos or the cars or something. But I have noticed in my mommyhood, the first one, if they're crying and it's dark and I have to go into their bedroom to, console them and find out what's going on, I just walked right in. Now it's like this shuffle. My feet don't pick up from the carpet. I just shuffle them because at this point, I don't want to break a toe. And I don't care to step on any random stuff that they have in the room. But yes, I agree with Jane. So Jane Bunker's on here. She's saying Legos hurt. Legos, they do hurt. But I was that weird kid. I ran outside with no socks, no shoes all the time. And we had a gravel driveway and I'd run across that thing. I didn't care.
Ouch.
Yeah, it didn't hurt. It just, I don't know. Probably because I was hyperactive and nobody knew anything about that then.
Stepping on Legos are painful. Stepping on little Matchbox cars, little trucks when I was a kid, that hurt. But like, I think my pride was hurt worse when I couldn't like get the Rubik's Cube, solve that sucker. Like that was like an inner pain that like just festered with your soul for a while until I realized, hey, I can peel the stickers off and make it look like.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I couldn't do that one either. It was a mixture of lack of patience and lack of focus. And yeah, I took all the stickers off and I gave it back to my brother and I'm like, look here. And he's like, oh my God, how'd you do that? It's only been 5 minutes. And then my kids, you scramble that thing upside down backwards and hand it in they do it. And I'm like, what the heck?
I don't know how. Like I got upset playing video games. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who would get road rage in the Walmart parking lot for crying out loud. So playing video games is probably not a good idea in the first place. I would get so mad. I broke so many remote controls playing Donkey Kong. Just like I don't know. So video games to me are like not. I know so many people love playing them all the time. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to like dunk a basketball playing against my nephew on one of his games. I couldn't.
Well, let me tell you. So I have a couple of boys right now. It's not quite dinner time for them, and they are playing Minecraft. Let me tell you how serious Minecraft. I spelled that wrong. It's Minecraft. Minecraft gets. You build like your city, right? So they interactively play with a whole bunch of other boys. I think there's a couple girls in there. So they build their house and then you farm and you make, grow food, you have livestock, all this kind of stuff. One day, my son, I don't know what was going on with him. He shot and killed all the chickens, everybody's chickens. That was a war. There was a straight up war. All we had to do was slide the thing for Pong, like boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was entertainment for us. We were so simple.
And then it got really complex. Remember the tennis game that was kind of the same thing as Pong, but like you had the people like one on the moving a hand on the other side. Those were fun though. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there were a lot of really fun games back in the 80s. I would go waste quarters at the arcade and have a great time playing Star Wars and Tron and Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Do you remember that game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was always a line of people at that one and Kung Fu, the most popular games. But, not just like, yeah, heck with it. I'm the littlest guy in the joint. I'm just going to go play skee ball and go to the movies.
That's awesome. Well, I do want to ask you about some of the, it seems like there's still some bank disruptions going on. What exactly is going on? Are we looking at a little bit more of a safe environment? Like has the poorly managed ones sort of shaken out? Where are we?
Well, yeah, it's only been probably, about 2 weeks since the Silicon Valley Bank. So we'll have to let this play out over the course of 2 or 3 months and see how many kind of shake loose and come to the forefront. We'll see who's poorly managed and who's not. And there was a hearing, I think today I was watching Capitol Hill, and they were really just talking about how Silicon Valley Bank was sort of an outlier because they were so poorly managed. I had mentioned to you before in the green room that there was one of the pieces of news that sort of shocked me. I heard discussed on CNBC earlier today was last year, ever since we had that banking crisis back in 08 and 09, and then you had a lot of regulations that were put on. And those regulations actually, even though it's kind of shored up the banks, a lot of that was political stuff. I guess they want people to be confident in the banks that the banking system is sound. And we literally have the best banking system anywhere in the world, even with some cracks. So I don't want people to like freak out and run on a bank. I'm certainly not. So the things that I heard that every year they do stress tests on banks. So regulators will go in and they'll give a situation and have them run this scenario. How would this impact your liquidity and how you handle your customers and this, this, that, and the other. Well, the last, apparently whoever this person was, I don't remember who it was talking, but it caught my attention. I turned and I looked. The last stress test that they were doing with some banks were, let's put rock bottom interest rates and how is that going to, declining interest rates. How is that going to impact your business and how your portfolio and how you handle your clients and your liquidity? And the first thing I thought was like, why in the heck would you put that as a stress test when rates are incredibly low anyway? The only way rates could go is up.
Right.
Why don't you put a stress test at 3% or something and see how they would handle liquidity?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they didn't. It seems like it would make sense to me, but of course all the banks would, hey, yeah, we're fine. Well, we saw what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, and it kind of rattled some of the others. I think the Signature Bank in New York was acquired, and now another regional bank stepped in and bought the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, and of course the Treasury, the government, that had to take the toxic part, and they're going to hold probably some of those bonds for a longer term. They'll get their money back, but just not something they want to hand over to another bank to have the same problem. So I was just kind of shocked about that, but I mentioned before that the banks really haven't excited me in a long time. I just really haven't been interested as far as investing in banks. So I don't really focus a lot of time in research. It's just like what I might hear on the news and like segments where they're talking about it when things like this come to the forefront. And you read a few articles to kind of find out what's going on. And we found out, well, I guess everybody sort of suddenly found out that Credit Suisse, had to be bought out. But like anybody that's researched banks for the last 10, 15 years knows that Credit Suisse has been the same way Silicon Valley Bank was, just kind of risky and poorly managed and just kind of getting by on their name. And, so the fact that that happened to me wasn't very surprising. It was a lot of people just said it was a matter of time, and then all it would take would be a situation that would, I guess, rattle banks to see some of these things shake out. So the Federal Reserve's raised rates at the fastest pace they have in a long, long time, right?
Right.
So now you're seeing banks how they're going to handle it with their portfolio, their bond portfolios that maybe went a little longer than they should, and now they have to hold these assets to mark to market instead of mark to maturity, and the liquidity problems it causes when they have to sell those and raise cash for their clientele, and they're taking losses. So you'll probably, it wouldn't surprise me if a few more sort of shook out, but those are going to be the ones that are poorly managed. And I think a lot of people sort of think that, some people think that the writing's on the wall, that a lot of these smaller banks are eventually going to be swallowed up by these larger banks that are, in quotes, too big to fail. Um, Now, I hope that's not the case, because I really like community banking and I like banks that are close to where they lend and things like that. But because if everything went to just those big banks, they're only going to deal with big companies. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So the loans and things like that. But I think with rates where they're at, you're going to see a lot of banks tightening. They're already tightening up who they loan to, the risk of some of those loans. So that kind of liquidity is sort of drying up out of the economy anyway. It's sort of the other end of handling inflation is, as the economy weakens and we talk about recession, you hear that being mentioned more and more often about a recession this year. Um, that sort of takes care of a lot of the inflation. And if banks are bringing a lot of capital, drying up capital for you, the Fed doesn't necessarily have to raise rates.
Right. And so there's so many different questions. Let's table recession for just a second, because I want to take a look at what is happening this week so far. We've had two closing bells so far in the market. It seems like the market's not going too crazy.
No, it's volatile. I always pay attention to what's called the VIX, the volatility index.
Mhm.
So sometimes when you're watching on CNBC or Fox Business or Bloomberg or wherever, you see something in the corner that says VIX. A lot of people don't know what that is. That's just a measure of volatility. So it's been coming down, and that's, the market's sort of settled down at that point. It's less volatile. You don't have these big giant swings up and down, and that's sort of what you want to see. You want to see that lower. So, yeah, we've had a couple of days where it's, down 100 points is not a big deal when you're trading at 32,000. So it's just a fraction of a percent. So it's been sort of in a way flat. So nothing, honestly, nothing really exciting. I was actually placing some buy orders today on some things. So, and the lesser volatility and things are sort of quiet. I was like, all right, well, let's put a little bit of cash to work today. So I was doing that for some of my clients. Actually, before we came on the air, before I popped in the green room, I just had finished up with my last client of the day. So it was kind of a long day,
Wow.
but a good day.
Anybody calling and you can tell that they're really nervous, or everybody's keeping their cool?
Everybody seems to be fairly keeping their cool. I don't know of anybody. And when there are things to be nervous about, you and I talk a lot, and we do this show a lot. So I think people that follow it probably know my attitude on the markets, and and sort of my style, I guess. But when things sort of get a little choppy, I preempt those calls. I will call clients and just say, hey, how you doing?
Mm.
Statement. Any questions on any of the things that we're doing? Obviously strategy hasn't changed, because I always talk to people about long term. So I think education's a big part of what I do when I talk to people, and especially some older clients. And if they have, for example, I'll just give you an example. Somebody wants income, and they're looking, you don't, a year ago, you weren't finding income in bonds
Mhm.
because rates were so low. So they look for things like, good, solid dividend paying companies, and because they're looking to supplement their income stream. So they may not really care so much about the fluctuations, short-term fluctuations in stock prices. They're concerned about their monthly flow of income from dividends. So I'll call them to say, hey, especially when people were the regional banks discussion, I was just calling people to say, hey, we don't have any exposure to any of this stuff, anything from Silicon Valley Bank, so just to let you know that if you had any questions or anything, so I try to preempt those. And most of my clients don't really freak out. They just, they have long-term vision. They know we're on it.
Well, that's good. Then you don't have to play psychiatrist, financial advisor, 2-in-1 type thing and calm people down.
Not too
So
often.
you had mentioned, with what's going on with the banks, that it is getting harder and probably expected to get even a little bit harder to acquire a loan. So what about those small business loans where that pops into my mind? A lot of people start up a business and realize, oh, wait a minute, I didn't quite make my profit that I was expecting, and we need to get this or that equipment. Um, is getting that loan now really imperative, or can you wait?
I guess it just depends on your particular bank, what the rates are there and how much. I guess some banks, like the rates, they're all fairly uniform, but like some things are still local too. So some banks may have a little higher rate depending on who they've lent to and what the local economy is like, um, and the particular business itself. So if you have a business that's kind of very risky and like really can get whipsawed in a recession
Mhm.
where it's touch and go whether you survive, the the chances of getting a loan are much tougher now than they were a year ago. So that's one reason why we have a lot of people that talk about recession this year, is because some of these smaller businesses that may not have reached the efficiency they need, or companies that are I guess um, doing innovative things.
Mhm.
It's kind of risky and kind of cutting edge, and they can't really get the money because the venture capital sort of dried up. Silicon Valley, which catered to those types of venture capital,
Mm.
that's not there for them now either. And so it's going to put a lot of pressure on small businesses. Um, if it's something where you think you need a loan, you probably want to maybe call your local loan officer and just maybe have that discussion with them and see if that's something where they think rates are going with that particular bank. Do they think the Fed's going to raise again, or are the bond markets are kind of forecasting that they're going to be cutting by the end of the year? Is that a possibility, and do the banks think that's a possibility as well? So
Yeah.
usually, I mean, you got to keep in mind the markets are forward looking, and you're halfway through a recession, you're wondering why the stock market's taking off. Well, that's usually why, because the markets will rebound before a recession ends. And so sometimes liquidity, as they cut rates, you have more liquidity to go to those businesses who want to try to innovate. That's why a lot of people say the best time to start a business is during a recession, not when everything's rocking and rolling, because you have that entire business cycle to kind of ramp up and be prepared for the next one.
Yeah. That's great thought, because it's almost going along the lines of investing. You want to put your money in when you can buy things low, right? So it's like getting everything on sale, which is, you've taught that to us time and time again. So I want to go back to the recession.
Yeah.
Last year we were hearing recession, 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 and then it cooled off. So in our news cycles, we haven't heard too much about recession in about 8 weeks. And now all of a sudden, recession, recession, recession. Now, I do think that it's hard to take the raw numbers of the jobs report and this, that, and the other as um, truly what they are. What is your opinion on recession coming or not coming, and how long you think it's going to be here?
First of all, I'm not taking those numbers for truly what they are. I think you're absolutely right. Um, I'm not going to give out the let me think before I actually give out the website. I may do this on another show.
Okay.
Um, let me think about that from a compliance standpoint, whether I should or not. But anybody who wants to do research out there are websites out there that will show you. Actually, I'll just tell you, shadowstats.com. If it's still out there, I haven't been there in a long time. But they actually track numbers the way the government used to track them. So, for example, when they changed how they calculate inflation, well, how would they have calculated it in 1983 or in 1982 versus how they calculate it in 2022? Is it the same thing? Same thing with unemployment. Are there more people that are unemployed than the government numbers actually report? Well, that's really an interesting website. So you can actually see what the economy, how the numbers would have been under previous definitions of government and the agencies used. We've been talking ourselves into a recession for 2 years now, like the market has, and just pundits, and you see the results of like bad government policy, bad spending policy, incompetence at certain levels. And when you start raising rates, it's like having the Liberty Bell and then beating the piss out of it with the wrong kind of hammer, and you see cracks coming. Right.
Mhm.
So that's what the Federal Reserve has been doing, and we're starting to see that. We're starting to see layoffs that were coming initially in the technology sector,
Yeah.
and that was the hot sector for quite a long time. So that's usually the first one to, to take those punches to the face, man. So talk about Mike Tyson's punch out. They just got rocked a little bit, layoffs, and you see Amazon announcing layoffs, and Google, and
Mhm.
I think Apple, and so all these companies that are out there that are starting to announce layoffs, and now you're seeing other companies outside of that announcing layoffs outside of the tech sector, and certain types of sectors slowing down, and that's what the Federal Reserve wants to see. Now it's unfortunate because people lose their jobs. It's a recession when your neighbor's out of work. It's a depression when you're out of work. That's
Right.
the old saying, and it feels so true. Um, and it's freaking heartbreaking to see people go through that. But that's what seems like is coming. And whether it's going to be mild or I don't think it's going to be like the Great Recession we had in 08, 09, not because they had a lot of structural problems in the banking sector and the housing sector, and so much that was going on. Um, we don't have those structural issues now. So whatever type of recession we get, um, who knows? It'd just be a guess, But nonetheless, everyone should sort of be prepared. Do you have 6 months of cash for like emergency funds in case you did lose your job and you still have to pay your rent or your mortgage, or you need to start thinking about those things.
6 months. I mean, that's heavy in this day and age. I do have a question for
Yeah.
Paul McFarland on this topic. Why does our system require regular cyclical crashes and recessions?
Well, I could. What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Paul McFarland.
Paul. That is a wonderful question, Paul. And I could jump down the rabbit hole and discuss about how the Federal Reserve creates booms and bust cycles. And but that is a long discussion for one of my podcasts. But do I think it's absolutely necessary? I think the government gets in the way and causes more issues, and the central banks, than they solve. That's I'll just sort of leave it at that. I will recommend an interesting book to you, Paul, if you want to go check this book out. I don't know if you've ever read it or heard of it. If you want to learn a little bit more about our Federal Reserve and the history of our Federal Reserve and how it came about and what kind of activities um, they had been engaged in over the years. Wow, people are going to look at me like the next day, like, what kind of conspiracy theories? But anyway, there's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And no, it's not a horror novel, but it sure sounds like one. Jekyll Island is a little island off the coast of Georgia. You may have heard of it, Elizabeth.
I've been there.
Okay. That is where, in secret, some of the biggest industrialists and bankers, I'm talking about your Carnegies, your Rothschilds, all these people coalesced on Jekyll Island to create the Federal Reserve Central Bank, that Andrew Jackson would have shot up half of America to stop. but it's a really interesting book about the history of the Federal Reserve and some of the, I guess, court cases that came out, and issues involved with booms and busts. It's by a guy named G. Edward Griffin. You can actually find the audiobook probably on YouTube, or find discussions by this guy. I do him presentations on it on YouTube or whatever. Now, that being said, like, kind of filter out all the conspiracy theory stuff and read the book for what it is, because you have a lot of people that'll gravitate to that book saying, oh, this is a conspiracy and all this stuff. Well, just read the book and you'll learn about why these, a lot of these booms and busts, and why a lot of it's unnecessary. But I do love that question, Paul. That might have to be a podcast sometime soon.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, which is why I wanted to make sure that we get that in there. All right. So So many of us just feel like the recession has been here for a while. It's like, hello, McFly. Like, why are we not just calling a spade a spade? Um, and back to what you had said was make sure that you have 6 months worth of funds saved up to float yourself in case you get laid off or your business is struggling and you're not being able to take a paycheck from your own business. Um, uh, for the people out there going, yeah, okay, what's a good, fast way to start?
Um, well, I always tell you, pay yourself first. Every paycheck, put something in savings. Earmark it as something out of your checking or savings account you're not going to spend. Um, if you don't want to keep it handy at your bank where you might be tempted to spend it, you can open up just a general brokerage account at any brokerage firm and just put it in a money market and earn a little bit of interest. Um, 2 years ago, you were earning like point nothing. Now on a money market, just leaving it in cash, you're making 3% at least in some places. So whether you open it up at, where we hold our clients at Schwab, or if you go to any other bigger firms, like Schwab's or Fidelity's or Vanguard's, just put it in cash. If you're not wanting to risk it in the market or an index fund or anything like that, just put it in cash. Nobody said you had to, go out and risk money having a brokerage account. You can still leave it in a money market and get a little bit of interest. And like I said, pay yourself first. First $50 every paycheck, first $100, put it away. If you can afford more than that, great. I know a lot of people sometimes live paycheck to paycheck, and it feels like such a struggle. But honestly, good habits, they're hard to form, and they're easy to break. But like getting in that habit of paying yourself first should absolutely be vital. You work your ass off for your money. You should let your money work for you a little as well. So, um, yeah, that's point number one. And then over time, I know sometimes it takes people a long time to build up that amount of money, but it's better to have something there than nothing. So if you don't start today, you're never going to start. So start thinking about, hey, this next paycheck, I'm setting up an account, and you can open up brokerage accounts for, you don't have to have a minimum. I mean, sometimes you're buying a mutual fund, you might need a minimum, but if you're just putting it in cash, you can just add that to it and actually connect it to your bank and then move money from your bank when you get your paycheck.
Mhm.
Like move it straight in, and it's just one or two clicks. So it's that easy.
We have a couple of people that, well, I won't complete that statement because I don't want to, have anybody know who I'm talking about, but I know of a few people that do exactly that. And their theory is, you know what, if I see it, I'll spend it. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll either pay a bill with it, I'll spend it on something else. So I don't even want to see it. And there are many employers that will do that. They might not advertise that they do that, but they will do that and be able to, just put it in another account. Open up a separate account that's just a savings account, and they'll put, what do you want? 25%, 20%, 10%, 30%, and it just gets split and divided. Now, bigger corporations, I'm not sure. I mean, but you could always ask, right?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. And if they don't offer it, talk to a few of your fellow employees and see if it's something they would like, and then just plant it in the ear of somebody in HR.
Sure.
uh, Let them know employees want them to look into that, because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. It's like your 401k. If you pick, I want to withhold 5% of each paycheck, then that 5% goes to your 401k. You don't even see it. And then if your employer matches you 5%, then awesome. You just put 10% of each paycheck into an investable account, saving for your future. That's the thing about good 401ks. If you can save up that cash, for like that 3 to 6 month buffer, then you don't have to dip into your 401k when times get tough. That's what a lot of people end up doing, is dipping into that 401k. But
Right.
they don't think about the fact that when you take that money out, that adds to your income. So that's taxable as current income unless you put it back within 60 days. But also you pay 10% penalty for taking that out as well. So if you're in a 30% tax bracket and then you pay a 10% penalty, well, congratulations, you just gave half your money to the government and only getting half of the use.
Yeah.
So terrible idea. But I mean, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. I understand that. Um, and I've seen it. Many people I know people personally that have had to do that. It's not a situation you want to be in, but you have to pay the rent and you have to put food on the table. So I get it,
Mhm.
but it's not the perfect choice.
So now I have a question for you, just as a home daily financially sound plan, not nothing to do with investments, but let's say you're looking at your utility bills, your car insurance, you're just looking at your bills for month to month.
Mhm.
What are some things that you can do that maybe people don't think of being able to do if they just don't have the money? Like defaulting is obviously the last thing. Like you don't want to do that.
I just take assessment of like the things that I don't need in my life. Like, I love my Netflix, but how many movies have I watched this month? If I'm watching one movie a month, or if I'm not really binge watching anything or spending some time, getting my money's worth, then why would I? Because there's so many free movie channels out there anyway. You have like Pluto app, you have Tubi, Distra. Like there's tons of these apps out there on your smart TV where you get free movies.
Mm.
Like if you're not really watching your Netflix or your Disney Plus or whatever, unless you're just addicted to Star Wars and The Mandalorian, why would you? Or Stranger Things on Netflix. But I knew people that used to subscribe to HBO, for example. It was like 10 or 15 bucks a month. And they only did it because of The Sopranos. But when the season was over, they would cancel their subscription and then they would renew it like the day before The Sopranos started back up again. So, like, that sort of makes sense, right? But yeah, I would just look at little things that you're not spending money on. Just cut those costs. Um, can you find a cheaper cell phone service? Can you? Because my cell phone bill is stupid. I have three different lines, and I don't like paying all that. And my TV bill is ridiculous. If I switched to Dish, I would save 100 a month. Like just things like that. I would think about just getting cutting cable and just going to Hulu or something. I mean, you can do that, because cable bills. I don't know if you have cable or Dish or whatever, but the cable bill here is probably like I think my bill went up when I got rid of HBO and Showtime and all that stuff. It went up by like 50 bucks. They charge you to even down, which was it's higher to downgrade, but like you're looking at like 165 bucks for just like basic cable without any, that's Spectrum for you. It depends on where you're at, I guess. But like, why would you pay that if you could get Hulu for like 20 bucks a month and actually just watch whatever or a handful of things you're watching anyway?
The one thing that I've noticed that we have an American Express, so we just, we use that for the points, and that's where everything is put onto. So it's nice to be able to look at this one bill at each statement time and say, "Oh wow, I forgot I had that subscription. Yeah, I got to cancel this subscription." And it's like, with these cell phones, especially with the iPhone, you go over to the App Store and you download an app because you need it right then. I had one for homework, and it was for one of the kids. It was a specific need. So my daughter, the youngest one, has always been like astronaut smart with math, and she passed me a long time ago because she's taken some kind of quantum physics or something. It's a college course, and she's only in 10th grade. So anyway, so I had this app on here. Well, I forgot about it. That was 2 years ago. So the subscriptions, like, is there any good place where it'll find? I thought I saw a commercial recently. I don't know if you know anything about it, but again, it was another app that would pop up and say, "Oh, you have this subscription, that subscription, this one."
Yeah, I saw that same commercial, but I never really add apps to my phone that I have to pay for. So I'm just like really, I'm very frugal in and of itself. Like I remember when I was in Cincinnati, I was just joking around with a buddy of mine up there, and it's like I was like, man, I guess you work with people and they tend to go out a lot after work, and you go out more nights and you think you go out and you're having fun in your 20s and 30s, and you look back, and I actually had Quicken attached to my or whatever one of these programs on my computer, so I'd have everything downloaded from my bank account into that, so I could use a pie chart to show where I'm spending my money. And I thought, oh my God, look at the amount of waste.
Yeah.
Like that's Roth IRA money, or that's that's going and doing something more memorable than just the same crap you do all the time every weekend anyway. Like the amount of money I wasted at this one place at the Hofbrau House, I could have went to like more baseball games downtown. Why did I go over there? I should have just went to more Reds games. But you think twice stuff like that.
I remember being young and dumb in the 90s, and you'd have to call into your bank account to see what you had in it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I go out tonight and go drinking or not?
The good old days, right?
Right? And my kids, I told my kids that, and they're like, well, so what if it was after hours? And I'm like, oh, usually it was. It was like 9:00 at night, and somebody just knocked on your apartment door and they want to go out. And they're like, well, did people just always work at the bank? And I'm like, no. How is this hard?
So funny. But yeah, God, the 90s. I miss them. I do. Oh, good time.
I know. Great time. Great time. I mean, and you talk about some of those older hippies that we were talking about there, and I was 70. They're like, oh man, the 70s. I miss them. I miss them. Like, it's always the most just like messy times. Like the 20s are not well thought out times.
No.
But you do miss them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I always tell people in their 20s, like, hey, please start investing. I will tell you every dumb mistake I made if you'll just not make that mistake. I try to tell my nieces and nephews that, and they're like, okay, all right. But and I'm just watching them do the same thing. Like, okay. They're having a great time. They're having a better time than me. So that's whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for everything that you shared with us this evening. And I have your information up here, but let us know, what do you have going on? Do you have another article that's out?
Well, I did write one a while back about the how to prepare for a recession, the steps that you can take, how to invest during a recession. Let's put it that way. So about defensive stocks and different types of securities you want to look at, and why it's important to have cash. You have cash available to to take advantage during those times. So it was a really interesting article, and I can. That's up on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page, if anybody wants to go back through those articles and look at it. There's a VistaFront Partners page on Facebook, but I got locked out and I can't get back in it, so I can't even post. And it's like, heck with it. So anyway, but if anybody wants to go scroll down that page, they'll find those articles down there too, because I've posted the links to those. But as far as anything new, there isn't anything coming up that's pressing in the market, like any kind of Fed news, or I mean, we'll have another earnings season coming up. Well, actually, there's some earnings being announced. It seems like all the time. Every time you turn around, you're back in earnings season. But no, just I'll just remind people, hey, if the things do happen in a recession, just if you're a long-term investor, just sort of keep doing what you're doing. Keep adding to your 401k, even if the markets get beat up a little bit. You're buying cheaper. You're reinvesting your dividends, which is like dollar cost averaging anyway. If you have a short-term horizon, just cash can be king. Why take the risk? You don't have to if you're a short-term investor. If you're a long-term investor, don't make dumb mistakes by trying to fluctuate around and react to short-term shocks. That's the best way to lose money. So again, just keep to your strategy. And if you need to have a discussion with your advisor, or you don't have one and want to talk to one, you're always welcome to contact me, and we'll talk through your situation, see how things are going, and what maybe other options you have to at least make you feel a little more comfortable during those times.
Those are great tips. Thank you so much for sharing those. Yeah, that's really, really fantastic. And the one article that we were talking about on last week's show was how to prepare for retirement, which was another great one. So thank you so much for putting out that education for free. You're helping people to understand and navigate what they need to do to be financially sound. And it's tremendously scary to realize, oh my gosh, I'm almost 60 and I don't have a plan.
Yeah. And if you're in that position, sit down and talk with someone. Sit down and talk. First of all, sit down at the kitchen table and talk about why you don't have one. Don't be scared. Don't be intimidated. But the longer you wait, the the situation can be. And I hope you have a job that you never want to quit, that you don't want to retire, that you love it. I wish that for everybody, and I wish everybody has a great brokerage account that's sound and growing, and it's something that's a long-term plan that you've succeeded. Because I just love seeing people succeed, and I don't think you last long in this business if you don't. So whether you do business with me or elsewhere, I just want to see people succeed and do well. I think in the long term, that makes our communities stronger, our towns, our counties, our states, our country. And teaching people just the basic fundamentals of investing that they should have learned in high school, but our schools failed us on that, is very vital. So if you have children, make sure you sit down, you talk to them about the importance of saving, investing, and also enjoying life, because that's why you do it to begin with. Don't sit around and sacrifice everything you have and be a loner and a pauper just to save everything. You don't want to be the miser. Live life, have fun, but do take the steps to make sure, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. So, but you're not going to have much of it tomorrow if you don't plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail, right? I forgot who said that, but somebody smarter than me said that.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Well, thank you so much, JC. This was really fun and very informational. So I thank you so much. And everybody, make sure that you go to vistafrontpartners.com, or it's Vistafront Partners everywhere. So you can go on to LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as YouTube, right? You have videos on YouTube.
No, actually, the only videos that are on YouTube are the ones that you record for the show.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't set up anything on YouTube yet, but occasionally on my Facebook page, which is just JC Schweingrouber, I just had to reset one up, so I haven't decided if I want to start doing short little videos, or I try to ignore some of the comments, because there's some people, it's like, the market sucks, everybody's going to lose their money, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. And it's like, okay.
Great.
I mean, that way you probably will, but but I wouldn't want to create too much of a disservice that people talk other people out of trying to succeed. So
exactly.
Yeah, and then if anybody needs to touch base or wants to set up a time to talk with me, either phone or Zoom, just email me at jc@vistafrontpartners.com, and just best time to contact you if you want to. I like to look at people when we talk, so Zoom is good if you're comfortable with that.
That sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you again maybe next week. I know we're going into the whole spring break time for the kids and Easter, and what? We are a few days away from April. How is that possible?
Spring's here. I mean, I'm so glad it is, though. I'm tired of winter, but yeah, it's going to be here. So maybe we will talk about. Maybe we'll have a fun top 10 or top 5 list of the craziest things that ever happened at spring break.
Oh, wow. All right.
Not anything.
That's a deep bucket of crazy. We can go explore it.
Crazy on spring break or at the beach.
No, never. All right, my dear. Well, I will see you very soon. All right.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you so much. Everybody, this was a fantastic show. Thank you so much for being so interactive this evening. Great questions, great comments. And as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. I love you, and I will see you again for another great show.